Hello, I'm Dave and this is Logan, out once again for a walk in the New Forest. Thanks for joining us. Now today we're at a place called Smuggler's Road, very near to Ringwood in Hampshire. In fact, we're just inside the New Forest. We're going to be walking a roughly 4-mile linear route, basically a 2 miles there and back, although you could make it into a circular route. We're going to start at a place called Knaves Ash. We'll head northeast up along a track known as Smuggler's Road to the outskirts of Vereley Wood, and then the side of Picket Plain and onto the magical Ridley Wood. We may finish off with a quick drive into the village of Burley, but more of that later. Now, a slightly different walk this week. You'll already noticed we're not alone. I'm delighted to say that we're going to be joined by a lovely lady, Nick, who has her YouTube channel, Walking the Wyrd. Hello, Nick.
Hello, Dave, and Logan, of course.
So what's going to happen today? Well, basically, I'm going to film my normal sort of countryside walk video. Nick is also going to film a video on her channel, and we're going to sort of appear in each other's videos. I'm basically going to act as a guide, showing Nick where to go. Hopefully we won't get lost. We're going to be going in a straight line, so we should be okay. Nick, what's your video going to be about?
So my video is going to be focusing on the tale of a smuggling lady by the name of Lovey Warne, but we'll obviously tell her story as we go through the walk today.
Lovely. Okay. Well, we'll get a chance to have a little interview or two with Nick as we go along. We'll find a bit more about her and her channel. Now, we're filming on a glorious sunny morning right at the end of September. The last few days have been quite miserable, but today it looks perfect. Do join us. Okay, well, before we start the walk properly, as it were, and head north along Smuggler's Road, we're going to make a little detour to the west towards Ringwood, because there's a few interesting things we want to explore around there. Well, I've parked my car at a Forestry England car park at the bottom of Smuggler's Road. It's just off the Ringwood to Burley Road. I'm just making my way towards Ringwood, and you can see what basically looks like a pond on the side of the road. Now, if you look at an 1872 map of the area, there was indeed quite a significant pond here, and it was still showing just on a 1961 map, but much smaller. But interestingly, it doesn't show at all on a modern Ordnance Survey map today. It does look quite marshy. We've had a lot of rain recently. I guess it just dries up in the summer. I don't know. Well, just a little bit further along from the pond is this quite splendid milestone. Believe it or not, it's a listed building. It dates back to the 19th century. There's a handful of these in the Burley area. I know Logan and I came across one when we did our walk in the centre of Burley. Aha, look what we've found, or should I say, look what Logan's found, a boundary stone. And it actually sits on top of, I think it's a Bronze Age Barrow, and it marks the New Forest boundary. So I think we've got Ringwood parish on one side and Burley on the other, I guess. And if you look at a map, you'll see there's a straight line south with more boundary stones that go all the way to Logan Barrow. And it's very much a good example of folk using these sort of prehistoric mounds to mark out boundaries in the past. I think Logan and I did visit Logan Barrow, but we couldn't find the boundary stone there. Well, this is as far west as we're going on the walk, a little place called Knaves Ash, just outside the New Forest boundary actually, but still inside the New Forest National Park. The reason we're here, there's a building that Nick is filming for her video. Okay, we're now going to sort of get on with the walk properly, as it were, by initially heading in a sort of northeasterly direction along an old track called Smuggler's Road. our first pit stop of the day, and well, how about this for a view, folks, looking to the south. So directly down there is Strodgemoor Bottom, and in fact right in front of me, if you look at an old map going back to 1898, there was once a Victorian volunteer rifle range there, about 800 yards long, and there were firing mounds sort of leading up to the targets, and the targets were in front of those trees in the far distance. And then just a little bit further on you can see a row of trees, and well, that's where there's a section of the old Castleman's Corkscrew railway line that was of course closed in the 1960s. And then appreciate that I'm pointing towards the sun. It's a glorious view. Over to the left there, up on the hill, that's the Castle Hill Fort, just the western side of Burley, and indeed it was an Iron Age hill fort. It had a single rampart and ditch. It covers about 5 acres. In fact, Logan and I have done a walk up there. Of course, the village of Burley gets its name from, well, Bur and Lee, which means fortified place with fields. Well, a New Forest walk wouldn't be a New Forest walk without coming across some New Forest ponies. And this one here, starting to get its winter coat. It'll be quite woolly in a few weeks' time, getting ready for the winter, but enjoying the autumnal sunshine today. Well, another little pit stop just as we're continuing along the old Smugglers' Road. This is looking over to the east, and in the distance there's a hill, Vereley Hill, and that forms an important part of Nic's story. So remember, do check out her video. I'll continue to head along Smugglers' Road. It heads all the way up to Vereley Hill, which you can see in the distance, which is very much a good lookout spot for smugglers in years gone by. And you can see that radio mast at the top. That used to be an old watchtower. Back in the 1950s, it would have been made of wood, and a chap would have sat up there at the top of a ladder all day in the summer looking out for forest fires. These days I think it's either a police radio or mobile phone mast. Oh, I do love this sort of heathland environment up here. Of course, the heather loves it. There's still a little bit of colour left before it eventually dies off for the winter. I've just done a tiny little detour away from Smugglers' Road up on the ridge here, just to have a quick look at another milestone. It's a beautiful condition. It's great that they're still here. Well, another little pit stop. It's going to be one of those days when the walk's very much all about the views. So the wood over in the far distance, that's Ridley Wood, which is our next destination. And then this is looking over to the north. You can probably see or certainly hear the busy A31 dual carriageway in the very far distance. That's one of the main routes through the forest. But just as we're making our way down towards the wood, loads of these holly trees around, and well, I've probably mentioned this in the past. This is quite a common sight where you see all the branches, leaves being grazed away by the livestock up to about, well, livestock level. They can't reach any higher, so that's why they look like little hats, don't they? Oh wow, Isn't this quite stunning? Now, this little stream here is called Mill Lawn Brook, and the source is actually just to the north of here at Ridley Plain. The valley it comes down is called Ridley Bottom, and well, it's called Mill Lawn Brook from here on until it joins up with another tributary that comes through Harvest Slade Bottom. And then basically there's an 8-mile route. It becomes the Ober Water and joins the Highland Water at Boulderford Bridge near Brockenhurst. And after that it becomes the Lymington River and flows out to sea at Lymington. Now, it might be just a little bit too chilly for a dog dip. Oh no! Oh, nearly up to chest height. Oh my goodness. A nice fresh drink. Well, I wasn't expecting that. You're getting brave in your old age. We might even have you swimming. He said, "I'll stay here, Dad." I tell you, it's such a glorious day today. I can't believe it. Now, just before we go into Ridley Wood, I'm going to do a tiny little reading, if I may, from Arthur Mee's book, The King's England, Hampshire with the Isle of Wight. I'm going to wear my glasses for this. He's talking about Burley and also Ridley Wood. Quite near Burley is the fine colony of beeches called Ridley Wood. In the deep hollow way approaching it on the west, smugglers used to meet their customers coming up from the Avon Valley and over the heath by Smugglers' Road. These beautiful beeches were unlawfully pollarded in 1571 by the tenant who had the enclosure, and the recording of this misdeed has enabled us to learn that the trees are over 350 years old. Some of the younger beeches are self-sown. Well, we'll have to look out for some of these beeches when we go in. Let's go. We're now just entering Ridley Wood, coming in through an old sunken hollow. And you can just imagine all those years ago, this being an old smuggler's route up to where the smuggler's market used to be near the top. I tell you, it's so atmospheric in these woods, and this is the top end of that sunken track, and it meets up with a crossroads, and somewhere around here is where the smugglers' market would have been held back in the 19th century. Well, I tell you, some of the beech trees in this wood, they really are quite beautiful, and they could tell some stories, I expect. Now, this one in front of me here is a good example of one that's been pollarded, basically where they've cut the tree at sort of head height to encourage sort of new growth and shoots, and that basically allows repeated harvests as cuts are made above the reach of livestock and deer, so there's no need for any protection from banks, ditches and fences, which they normally have in other parts of the forest. And apparently, I was reading, it actually extends the life of the tree. However, stems and branches aren't as stout as uncut ones, and they're less suitable for the shipbuilding industry. And following concerns about the rapid depletion of timber stocks for the Navy, there was an Act of Parliament created in 1698 that basically brought in a law that forbade the pollarding of oak and beech in the New Forest, although some illegal cutting still did take place. Well, it's starting to cloud over a bit, but seeing as we're out here in the open, lots of sandy tracks, time for some Whippet zoomies. Cue the music. Well, just before we leave Ridley Wood, I thought it would be ideal time to find a bit more about Nick and her channel. She's been a good sport and is going to join in. So, questions coming up, Nick. What's your channel about?
So my channel is called Walking the Wyrd, and I basically explore historical, paranormal or spiritual places of interest. And I'm based in Dorset, so I tend to be around the south coast of England. Yeah.
Lovely. What actually got you inspired into walking the Wyrd?
Well, my interests and hobbies have always been paranormal things and places of spiritual interest like Stonehenge and stone circles. I'm interested in all of that, and I love history. So I've watched loads of YouTube channels, and I just thought, why not give it a go myself? And I like photography as well, so I thought, let's just do it. Let's do it. No time like the present, so here we are.
Well, you've answered my next question. What inspired you to start up the channel? Where do you get your research from?
So multiple sources really. I've got a lot of books at home, mostly by local historians, be they ghost story books or historical books, and of course the good old internet. So I will use various sources, predominantly places that are linked to the place I'm going to. So for example, if I'm going to an English heritage location, then I'll look on their website for hopefully what you think would be the most accurate and up-to-date information.
And you've done, well, how many videos done now? It's quite 50.
7 or 8.
What would be your sort of favourite, either favourite video or favourite type of location to film?
Wow. So I did the Stonehenge solstice this year, which was just an incredible experience, and so much more than I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be busy and kind of touristy, but it wasn't. It was absolutely amazing. So that was really good experience. And places like West Kennet Long Barrow, they sort of stick in my mind, which I did last year, but they're just places that kind of just take your breath away. And some great castles like Old Wardour in Wiltshire and Porchester over near Portsmouth. That's also been a phenomenal one. Yeah.
Well, it's great. So it's called Walking the Wyrd. Wyrd is spelt
Weird.
W-Y-R-D.
Yes.
Do check it out. There's some terrific videos on there. I'm sure you enjoy it. I'll put a link at the bottom in the details. Okay, well, a little update on the route. We're very much on the homeward leg as far as going back to the car, coming back the way we came. You could do a little circular route if you wanted, and I'll put those details up on screen. Well, we've sort of found some blackberries. Logan, you can have a look. I don't think they're going to be, just about, but I think that's about it. We're at the end of the season now, fella. So here we are back at the Smugglers Road car park. And we're now just going to pop into our cars and drive a short distance to the village of Burley over to the east. Hello. What a lovely sight. Beautiful. Now that's the way to travel. Well, here we are in the little village of Burley, and in particular the church. And the reason we're here is because Nick needs to visit it as part of her story in her video. She's actually inside the church filming at the moment. Whilst she's doing that, we've been given the task to see if we can find a particular grave. Well, no joy so far, but we're going to carry on looking. In the meantime, let me tell you a little about the church. It's the Church of St John the Baptist. Now, originally Burley was part of the parish of Ringwood, and it only separated from that town in 1838. And the church here was built on land donated to the village and was actually consecrated in 1839. There was no actual church here before. Previously, I think locals were christened or buried at Ringwood or Bransgore. There was a small chapel in the village, or possibly mentioned as early as 1663, but certainly there in 1789. That shows on an 1898 map, but it closed in 1997. I think it became a private house in 2012. But the church here, say St John the Baptist, originally it was a simple rectangular building, what is now the nave. And there's a two-bay chancel, a north vestry, a southeast chapel which was added in 2009, and a northwest porch which was added in 1886. Aha, here we go. This is the grave we were looking for. It's the grave of Constance Mary Catherine Appleby. She died in 1981, aged 107. And she was famous for the fact that she introduced women's field hockey into the USA in 1901. And there's a fascinating window, stained glass window inside the church that's actually got a pair of hockey sticks in it, as well as an apple and a bee. Now we've got one more place to visit before we end the video, the pub. Now I know what you're thinking. There's a very good reason. It's a smuggler's pub and a very important part of Nick's video. And here it is, the Queen's Head. Now the building actually dates back to 1685, I think. Originally it was a blacksmith's, but the earliest record of it being a pub was in 1753, when it was known as the Booth's Arms. Now it's got a very interesting story about it. The inventor, Edward Craven Walker, was actually sitting in the pub in 1963 when he noticed a homemade egg timer crafted from a cocktail shaker filled with a strange looking liquid bubbling on the stove behind the bar. Fascinated by the blob of light and how it cast strange shadows across the room, it inspired him to create his own using liquid and wax, and soon after he invented the iconic lava lamp. Well, here we are, folks, in the beer garden of the Queen's Head. As said, vital that we had to come here because there was some vital research for Nick's video.
Yeah.
But as we're here, we thought we might check out their ale. Lovely stuff. And it's crisp time now. There's no pipers today. So, Tyrrells? Yeah, thumbs up. Well, we hope you enjoyed the walk today. I know it's slightly different from normal. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up and a like, and do leave a comment, and do check out my Facebook page, Dave's Countryside Walks. Nick, I'd just like to thank you for being such a sport and coming along, and as I said, do check out her channel, Walking the Wyrd. So all that remains for me to say from me, from Logan and from Nick, thanks for watching, and cheerio. Bye-bye.